Okay, this video is going to be on controlling Blender, shortcuts, and basically setting up your first render. The first couple things is to move around the viewport. To orbit something, it's middle click. Actually, I'm going to turn on screencast keys so you guys can see. End panel brings up, well, end button brings up the end panel. T brings up the tool panel. I've got all kinds of different stuff in here that I might go over in future tutorials. But to orbit a selected object, it's middle mouse button, scroll wheel to zoom in and out. You do control and hold down middle mouse button and move your mouse, and that will zoom in and out. Let's say you want to select the lamp, you right click on stuff to select things, but you want to orbit using the orbit the lamp. What you do is you can either hold shift and middle click and drag your center of orbit basically wherever you want. So I can move it like all the way out over here and it starts orbiting over there. Or what you could do is use number pad delete or the period key, and it will focus in on whatever is selected. So I can focus in on the camera, back to the cube. It's pretty, well, it's simple for me, but might have some time to get used to it. Let's go ahead and move the cube. So let's select it with right click. You can grab stuff with G. You just grab it. You move around wherever you want. If you want to reset where it was, you do Alt G, Alt and G, Alt and R, Alt and S will usually reset stuff. So if I rotate this, grab it, and then scale it with those keys, and I want to reset everything, I'll reset the scale, the rotation, and the movement. The reason why I use pie menus is because it's just a whole lot easier than the standard user interface. Because the standard user interface, it switches between object and edit, and you'd have to go all these other modes, you'd have to go down here to select them. So here's where you select your modes. Here's your viewport shading. We can change this to textured, which I don't have a texture on it. Change it to material. And you can also do that with Z. Is the same thing as this one. You can also do render, and that's how you preview a render. Or you could do Shift Z, Shift C, brings it back into shading or into rendered. Let's go into edit mode. And then you can either use the selector down here, or I do Control Tab, and it's the same thing. It's just a lot of the shortcuts still use all this stuff, but you don't have to keep coming down here to use them. So if I select the face, select one of them with right click, you can zoom in on it. You can grab it, do whatever you want with it. If you want to add to a mesh, you can either extrude with E, and that basically takes the face and extrudes it. You can scale it. To scale inward or outward like this, you extrude, right click, scale inwards, and then extrude inwards. So you can make pretty cool shapes, I don't know. This just I don't know what you would call this, but if you want to duplicate a face, you do Shift D. There it goes. And you can just move this wherever you want and then start building something else from there. I guess I can go over the views right now. You can either use Q, and it's the same thing as your number pad. I don't really use Q because another add-on that I use reuses this key. So if you want to go to front view, it's 1. Side view is 3. Top view is 7. And then orthographic and perspective is 5. What that does is it changes from orthographic to perspective, so yeah. If I switch back to 1 and say I want to look on this side, 9 will usually flip stuff around. Well, that's what it does, is it flips whatever you select around. So like if I want to see the bottom, I select 7 for top and 9 for bottom. Now I'm looking at the bottom of it. Let's go over some of the shading. I like to do most of my editing I'll have in wireframe, just because you can see all the faces. Or if you don't want to use wireframe, you can use, I don't know the key for this, but this basically turns on wireframe with shading. So like this face, I wouldn't be able to grab it normally. It would just select whatever is closest. But with this I can select stuff inside of stuff. A will deselect stuff, so if I select different things and want to deselect, I hit A. A also selects all. You can toggle between selecting nothing and selecting everything. And go ahead and delete. You can delete vertices, edges, faces, and I'll show you what each one does. So I'm just going to do vertices. Shift A to add stuff. So I'm going to add my basic cube back in. Change to orthographic, go to the top. Depending on your computer, I guess if you can handle cycles, you can handle ambient occlusion. What that does is, if I have it off, and I'll make some steps here. Like, from the top you can't tell that there's actually anything here. With ambient occlusion, it does ambient occlusion on shading, so you can actually see stuff where you normally wouldn't be able to see stuff. And I usually have that checked, so you might want to save that on. Selecting stuff. Standard select is right mouse. To select multiple things, it's shift, so I can select whatever I want. To connect the selections, you do Control, and it will select everything in between those 2 points, or try and do its best. Alt usually does a loop. So if I go into edge mode, it will select in a loop. If we go into object mode, it's same thing as edit mode. If you want to duplicate something, it's Shift D, and then you can scale and do all kinds of things. Scaling, you can scale on a particular axis. Like if I want to make this taller, I can scale it on Z or X or Y. Or if I want to omit an axis, you scale it Shift Z, and that will do X and Y at the same time. This is a 3D cursor. You can move that wherever you want it with left click. Like say I want to put it there and add cylinder. So this basically moves where you can add stuff. Gonna select everything, hit delete. To recenter your 3D cursor, you do Shift S, and then cursor to, you can do selected, center, grid, or active. To center it, you do center. Let's add it plane. Go to edit mode and scale it. Actually, I'll show you. If you manipulate stuff in object mode, and if I come up to here, you can see the scale is 1. If I scale this times 8, it will scale this by 8. And that can throw off some of the modeling and stuff like that. So anytime I try and manipulate stuff, I'll change it to edit mode, scale by 8. Then you still have the same scale. Shift A to add, let's add a cube. If you want this cube to be on top, you can go to edit mode, grab, move on Z axis, and then move it up 1. And let's go ahead and add a sphere, an isosphere. Move these up too. Even though this is a sphere, you can see the edges on it. You can go to smooth shading and it will smooth it out. Next we need a camera. You can either just move the camera wherever you want, or what I found out recently is you can move where you want the picture to be and do Control-Alt-0, and it will automatically move the camera in your line of sight. So now if I move, the camera was moved there. Next we need some kind of light, because if we render this now, it's pretty dark. Let's do, I guess I could show you the different types of light. Point light is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a point. It throws light in a complete sphere. Spotlight, it's pretty much a spotlight. And then a sun is basically an infinite light. What I mean by that is if I have how can I show that off? Basically, wherever this line is, it's throwing light in that direction. So if I have it underneath, it still throws light based on that direction. Go ahead and bring this back up. Now we're going to add some materials, so I'm going to select the cube, change the color of it. You go to Material panel, add one, and you can change the color of it. Let's do blue, red, and green. And some kind of gray. And with cycles, whatever is in this color panel is generally what you will see in the internal engine. You can have different colors, like this won't match up. There's different things you can do, like you can change the viewport color. Somehow I don't really mess with that. Over here is all of your objects, so if I want to select the camera or the cube, isosphere, plane, or the sun. To change the sun, you can go down here and change the color of it. You can change the brightness. And if you want to change the shadow of it, as you can see, it's kind of like a blurred shadow. You can increase the size and it will blur it more. You can decrease the size and it will sharpen it. I guess in editing I can show you this. If you want to divide an object, you can hit W and subdivide. Or if you don't want that many vertices, you can do Control R and do as many as you want. Then you can drag this up or down. Make different shapes with it. You can scale these inwards. Like if you want to bring these together, you can select median point and that will bring them to don't know, we call this the axis point. And you can just scale it in, or scale it. Which one is it? There we go. Bring them in. If you want to make one cut and then expand it later, you can do Control B and it will bring it out. Add another cube. You can also bevel with Control B. If you want to go back to the camera, you can hit 0 on the numpad and that will bring you to the camera. If you want to move the camera while using the standard orbit controls and whatnot, you can use lock camera to view, and then you can just move it around however you want with the viewport. Then unselect it, or you're going to, like if I want to move out of this, you have to unselect it, then move, or you can just hit 0 again. It'll bring you out of it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so thanks for watching.